All right, man, peace. So the Golden Globes award ceremony for 2018 was ground zero for the Me Too movement, which of course has transformed, metastasized per se, into the hashtag Time's Up movement. As we can see right here, what is illustrated is what I've been telling you brothers for the longest time. The Me Too movement is really just the revenge of the ugly or quickly expiring bitches. That's really all it is. Now, the females and also the male actors in Hollywood, they made a show of it by dressing in all black, which was truly just a witchcraft ritual in veneration of Saturn, also known as Osiris. They also walked, of course, on the red carpet to signify the fact that they are all blood debted into the industry. They cannot get out, even if they wanted to. Okay? It is what it is. Certain people might understand that, certain people may not. But when they become a part of the Hollywood entertainment industry, they can only get in, they cannot get out. Now, this female on the left, the so-called black female, her name is Tarana Burke. She is the official founder of the hashtag Me Too movement. If you brothers remember, when the Me Too movement first came into prominence, they wanted to accredit it to Alyssa Milano, the former child actress on Who's the Boss. I think that they quickly realized that they better give the credit to this female here because we're living in the information age. And if it was found that they were trying to give all the credit to Alyssa Milano, it could quickly become a racial issue. And they don't want that for this movement. They're trying to make sure that all females of all races are walking in lockstep in veneration of the mother goddess and to turn against any form of male hegemony. And that brings me to my next point. What the media did bring out is that all of these females wore all black. What they did not bring out was that none of these females wore a bra. So it was clearly an ode to the original feminist movement of the late 60s, early 70s, which involved bra burning. But anyway, let's let them talk about it. I'm going to chime in. This segment features Miss Oprah Winfrey, the mother goddess of the entertainment industry, as she interviews the so-called ruling level of the Time's Up panel. Let's see what they have to say. Many things are going to be revealed.
Even before the first award was handed out at last Sunday's Golden Globes.
Tracee Ellis Ross, another quickly expiring female actress who is using this Time's Up, hashtag Me Too movement to garner some attention for herself. As we all know, she has failed in any attempt to establish a personal life. So as I've told you brothers before, once the woman gets in that 35 to 45-year-old range, they will do anything they can to maintain some type of credibility as someone who should be the recipient of sexual energy. If they can't get that, then they're going to try to jump into the feminist world. This female's talking a lot of things about re-engineering society. This is the same female who was running around a couple of years ago scared out of her mind that Charlie Sheen gave her HIV because she was one of the many actresses in Hollywood who were sleeping with Charlie Sheen, but you just didn't know about it because they don't put that in the mainstream press. And this female period just smuts away around Hollywood, allegedly. All right? It is what it is.
Globes, the Time's Up campaign had already won the night. Time's Up, which began as a meeting.
Now look at that. Let me rewind that back a little bit.
Of Hollywood. Time's Up.
Look at this. The Caucasian female on the right, I'm sure you guys all know her. That's Emma Watson, I believe her name is, or Emma something. I believe it's Emma Watson. One of you brothers can correct me. I know it's the little broad from Harry Potter. She's a very ardent feminist. This is way before the Me Too movement. I've seen her in interviews talking about how much she's in favor of female rights and how men need to join in to promote female equality, so on and so forth. As you can see, the so-called stud lesbian on the left is using this as an excuse to put her hand around Emma Watson's waist and pull her close. It would not shock me at all if many of these stud lesbians who were at this event were able to go home with a few of these actresses. Remember, many of these females are trend oriented and they get caught up in the emotional vibe of a movement like this, and they decide that they're going to really take the female sisterhood vibration to its limit by just going home with a stud for the night and rubbing coochies and saying fuck men. And then of course the next day she wakes up and kicks the stud out of her apartment and texts her boyfriend, good morning, baby, I missed you. Everything went well at the event last night.
Which began as a meeting of Hollywood women last fall to address sexual harassment in the workplace, has become a movement for victims everywhere. Stars wore black as a sign of unity.
Look, brothers, I'm going to state this very plainly. I've always suspected that this female, I believe her name is Allison Janney or Allison Janney, is a post-op transsexual, okay? Allegedly. I remember that there was someone who has a relative level of fame in Hollywood who came out and stated that there is a quote-unquote actress in Hollywood who is a post-op tranny, someone who's relatively well-known and has been well-known for a while, but has not come out of the closet as someone who was formerly a male. I don't see who else it could be other than this person, all right? Allegedly.
And for one dazzling moment.
Oh, here goes Nicole Kidman, a.k.a. Catwoman. If they pull her face back one more time, she'll be able to play the stunt double for Jackie Chan.
The fight against harassment and gender inequality.
Oh, so they were able to salvage Mariah Carey off the scrap heap. For those of you brothers who don't know, I believe I mentioned this already, Mariah Carey is a MK Ultra Monarch butterfly. Meaning what? She was raised up in the programming. And don't take my word for it. Look up her sister. Her sister is on record as stating that they grew up being subjected to satanic ritual abuse and sexual abuse. This is why this female, Mariah Carey, is known to have self-destructive psychological breakdowns. Nick Cannon is her handler. And Nick Cannon also was raised in the programming. That's why he was brought up through Nickelodeon. Okay? Nick Cannon's grandfather, I believe, was in the military, based out in San Diego, if I remember correctly. But you brothers could look that up. This is also why you'll see oftentimes Mariah Carey likes to use the imagery of rainbows. And as I already stated, butterflies. Moving on, you see this female here, America Ferrera. She's supposed to represent the Latino delegation of the sisterhood of Hollywood. She also claims to have been the victim of sexual abuse as a child at the age of 9 years old. This is what she states. Her father left the family at 7. So it's very clear that whoever it was who molested her was most likely maybe a boyfriend of her mother or some other male family member. But I doubt it because her family are immigrants from Honduras. So I doubt if it was another male family member. So now, moving on, you have, what's this chick's name? Natalie Portman. Natalie Portman is another monarch butterfly, per se. She came into prominence in the film The Professional. Now, if you guys ever watched the film Professional, there's a scene where she's living, of course, with the assassin, and she comes out of the room basically trying to seduce him. That entire film is about her being attracted to him and her love affair, her attempt at a love affair with a grown man. Now, mind you, in the film, she was, I believe, 13 or 14 years old. And she's attempting to engage in a serious love affair with a man who's probably 25 years her senior. Okay? After that, George Lucas, of course, tapped her to play the character of Padme in the Star Wars prequels, which I've already noted. Her character of Padme is based off of the mythological goddess Leto, or Lato, spelled L-E-T-O or L-A-T-O, who is the mother of Apollo and Artemis, or as they're known in the Star Wars series, Luke and Leia. Then, of course, you move on. You have Emma Stone, who also is a monarch butterfly. And then to the right of her is one of the transcendent figures of the lesbian sisterhood movement, that being Billie Jean King. Probably the first female athlete to come out of the closet. And she was involved in the PSYOP tennis match against Bobby Riggs. And that was a very good name for him because that whole situation was rigged, right? To make it look as if female athletes could compete with male athletes.
Equality was center stage. But now what?
Now, Oprah's supposed to be the leader of this delegation, but she's asking, now what? Please keep that in mind.
On a rainy Southern California day after the Globes, we gathered some of the women who helped start it all. So, who is the head of the group?
Well, bitch, it's supposed to be you, isn't it? Aren't you the one they claim going to run for president in 2020? You mean to tell me you don't even know who the head of the group is? Look at this bullshit.
Is it an organization? Is it a group? Is it a movement? Is it a campaign?
At this moment, it's a campaign. And we're all sort of workers among workers and women among women sort of rolling up our sleeves and doing whatever sort of comes to the forefront.
In other words, bitch, you don't know what's next. You just know that you can get some attention for this. Right now, the iron is hot, so you're going to strike. You're going to try to use this to parlay yourself into getting more money for your roles and things of that nature. Even Oprah's confused because Oprah realizes that this is all a bunch of dumb shit. These women have no plan and this is going to fizzle out. Look at Oprah's face. Oprah confused as shit.
Well, how do you get things done with no leader?
Well, shit, Oprah, aren't you supposed to be the leader? Brothers, that should just go to show you that even Oprah knows that these liberal females in Hollywood can't lead flies to shit. Now, Tracee Ellis Ross is trying to run her mouth because she feels like this is her moment to take authority or take control because she can't get a man to save her life. Once again, she's 45 years old. She's at that moment where she realizes that husband and children are not going to happen for her. Right? She's been fucking different men throughout Hollywood. She's been laying down with a lot of these rappers and basketball players, and now she wants to be taken seriously. So this is her moment to be taken seriously.
Well, we're women.
And what exceptional women they are. Lucas.
Did you hear this, broad? When Oprah said, who's the leader? Tracee Ellis Ross responds back, we're women. Well, if you were going to show your leadership role as a woman, you'd have had children already. You can't have children because no man's taking you seriously.
Film president Kathleen Kennedy, the force behind the Star Wars movies.
Well, no, Kathleen Kennedy is the producer of the Star Wars series, but she's really the force behind turning the Star Wars series into a forum for social engineering. What they've done is they've inverted the entire original trilogy of Star Wars, turned every prominent character from male to female, introduced that silly character of Rey, who has no imperfections and does not need to be trained, so that they can promote the energy and the image of the female as a goddess. Remember, the goddess does not need to be taught. She's just born as is. That's why Rey does not need to learn anything from any so-called Jedi masters. Luke had to be trained. Rey doesn't have to be trained because she's woman, remember? She's like the goddess Diana, right? The warrior goddess. She's born perfect. When you look up Diana, Diana was born perfect.
Wow. Mega producer Shonda Rhimes.
Damn, they don't need to be doing a close-up on that. Shonda Rhimes, whew. Look like Paul Pierce with a wig on. The hell is going on here? Shit. She got a 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock shadow.
Rhimes, creator of hit TV shows including Grey's Anatomy and Scandal.
Yes, a.k.a. bedwench.com.
Entertainment attorney Nina Shaw, and actresses America Ferrera, Natalie Portman.
Damn, Natalie Portman looked like she just got out of a concentration camp in Nazi Germany. Is she okay? Look like she got to take a shit, a piss. Somebody called her, told her a dog died. What's wrong with her? God damn.
Portman, Tracee Ellis Ross, Reese Witherspoon.
Reese Witherspoon just looked mad as hell. She looked like she's still mad that Ryan Phillippe don't want to be with her anymore. Brothers, once again, many of these females are going to reveal in this interview that they were quote unquote molested as children. when you start quote unquote dating these women, always ask them if they've ever been involved in a situation like that, because that level of psychological disorder is going to affect your rapport and your dealings with that female. All right. A lot of these females are carrying around more baggage than Delta Airlines. Make sure you get to the bottom of that shit, because if it doesn't come out in the wash, it will come out in the rinse. All right.
Fun. Beyond raising awareness, how is this going to help the waitress, the farm worker, the factory worker, the caregiver?
We have to maintain the momentum of this conversation.
Yeah, but that's not really what Oprah's getting at. What she's getting is that those females that you're trying to pump their heads up with your contrarian bullshit, they're not going to have the equity that top level female actresses in Hollywood have. They're not going to be able to go to work and they're a waitress at a diner in St. Louis, Missouri, and they decide that they want to get angry at the waiter because the waiter asked them out on a date and they found the waiter unattractive. So now they want to come to work with a t-shirt that says #MeToo. They already have a utility set up for females who actually get sexually assaulted. It's called 911. You should try it sometime.
Because they can't. It's not only in what we're doing with a group like Time's Up, but it's in the content we're creating, the conversations we're having. We have to continue this work.
Now, did you hear what Kathleen Kennedy said? She said it's in the content that we're creating. She's talking about the television shows and the movies that they're producing in Hollywood, which are meant to exalt the feminine principle. And there are a series of things that the males in Hollywood are going to have to do in response to this propaganda. And that that men in general are going to have to start doing, which is, number one, stop going to see these films. I have no interest in seeing most of the product that Hollywood is putting out because they're more concerned about exalting the woman than they are making good stories. There are many great films that have been made in the last 30 plus years that starred female heroines. Look at the Alien franchise with Sigourney Weaver. Look at the original Star Wars with Leia. But they had a strong female character, but she was not purposefully there to outshine the men. That's what was great about the original Star Wars trilogy, is that you had characters that were actually multi-layered and complex. They were not caricatures like how you have today, cartoon characters. And that's what happens when you allow the female to be fully in creative control. Because most women are not three-dimensional thinkers, so they create characters that tend to be very two-dimensional to match their thought process. Man bad, woman good. Man deceitful, woman has integrity. Right? This is how many of their characters come off. And you'll see this female here, Shonda Rhimes. Her television shows tend to revolve around her own inner fantasy, which is the inner fantasy of many liberal females, black females, which is that they'll get the white knight. And I mean that literally, the so-called Caucasian man. So there are many layers to this assault on quote-unquote masculinity.
Because we do have the spotlight.
They also have the money. The $16 million Time's Up Legal Defense Fund can help harassment victims get a lawyer if they need one. There's so many men and women now who are uncomfortable in their workplaces because of all that's been uncovered and aren't just really sure how to be. What do we say to them?
Well, before they answer, let me say this. What's going to happen in the regular workplace is that many males who are in a position to hire are no longer going to hire females, particularly attractive ones. They're going to trump up criteria that are going to eliminate a lot of females. Because most women are going to be more trouble than they're worth. Most women are more trouble than they're worth in general anyway. Anyone who's worked in corporate America knows that when you introduce the feminine energy into the workplace, most of the time what you have is cattiness, pettiness, over emotionality. People that you cannot count on to come into work oftentimes because they're always sick. They have relationship issues because they no longer know how to interact with the man in their personal life. They're coming to work looking for surrogate boyfriends. Oftentimes they have trouble learning new material. These are all things that any man who's worked in corporate America, in a corporate America environment, can attest to. And many of the men in corporate America who are involved with hiring are just going to stop bringing on women. And they're going to make their HR department bring them into the office and ask them why they're not bringing on women. And they'll already have some type of excuse, or they'll just say, oh, okay, I didn't even realize. But that's the change that's going to happen, because this movement, this hashtag #MeToo movement, is a fascist movement. It's not based in any form of justice. It's based in vindictiveness. They're not looking for equality. They're looking for supremacy.
We're humans. We're all humans. And I think it's treating people as fellow humans. And it's not because you have a daughter that you respect a woman. It's not because you have a wife or a sister. It's because we're human beings. Whether we're related to a man or not, we deserve the same respect.
That's true. So you make sure that you have that humanistic approach the next time you hear about a man who's in prison for a rape conviction that he did not commit. I wonder if that Time's Up legal fund is going to be applicable to that gentleman. You remember that the next time that a man has been paying child support for years and years for a child that's not his, and the female knew that it was not his. I hope that you run that human line then.
We have an instinct about how to treat our fellow human beings.
Were there those of you who joined because...
Yeah, the instinct on how human beings normally treat each other is, I'm going to do as much as I can to get over on that person. That's what the human instinct is, Natalie Portman. That's why you have laws. Laws are written so that parameters are created to counter human behavior. Because at its core, human behavior is animalistic. The difference is that we're given a conscience so that when we start to commit wrong or think about doing wrong, you have that energy in you that counterbalances that and says that's not right. The reason why you have laws is because laws confirm that conscience energy. That's why you have legislative bodies. But once again, if you're a two-dimensional thinker, you're not going to understand that.
Because you were also a woman who could say, me too.
Yes. Yes.
Speak to that, Reese.
Me too. I have been very open that I was assaulted. It's important that people know that silence. I
assaulted at 16 on one of your first movies.
Yes.
Yes.
The first time I actually heard from Reese was after I had posted my Me Too message.
Remind us of what you posted.
I posted vaguely about an incident of when I was 9 years old being assaulted by a man who I was then sort of forced to see afterwards for a long time. And what struck me about my experience was his certainty that I would be silent. And he was right.
Of course he's right, because he's still right, because you still refuse to name that man and you still refuse to be explicit on what occurred. So, of course, all people are going to do is create conjecture. You're still showing that you're a coward, to be quite frank with you, because if the man sexually adulterated you like you claim, you should run his name out there and say, this is what he did, this is when he did it, and I'm putting this forth for young ladies to know, and most importantly for parents to know to protect their child. This is what you should be doing. Instead, you're still just vaguely alluding to something that allegedly occurred 24 years ago. Is that responsible? I don't think so.
He was right for 24 years.
You mean he was right for 24 years and counting? He was right for 24 years and counting, because he's still right. Until you get explicit with what actually occurred, all you're doing is attention mongering, to be quite frank with you. And still, from none of these females have I heard them talk about the rampant pedophilia and pederasty in Hollywood. How come Corey Haim is not on this Time's Up panel? Is it because these females are not as caring about sexual assault as they claim to be? Is this really about a power play for women? This is why I touch on this incessantly on this channel, brothers. These females don't really care about anyone other than themselves. The liberal female, all they care about is themselves. All this is an attention grab.
Did you all see on Golden Globes that Sunday, Dylan Farrow tweeted about Time's Up, saying that when she came forward about her alleged abuser, Woody Allen, 4 years ago, that she thought his time was up. I think he was getting the same award that I received. And
yes, of course. And you know Woody Allen very well, Oprah. That's why Seal outed you with those photos of you and Harvey Weinstein, because you know about Harvey Weinstein as well. You didn't give a shit about any of those females who alleged to be victimized by Harvey Weinstein because you knew about it. You know why? Because, sexual degradation is part and parcel of being a part of Hollywood. You certainly would know about that because you've been sexually degraded since you were under 10 years old as part of the MK Ultra program. All right, but that's a whole other video. But Seal outed Oprah already as being phony.
And she says she thought his time was up, but it wasn't. And she asked, is time really up now? What would you want to say to her?
Well, the first thing I'll say is that everybody's known about Woody Allen for many years. Woody Allen was engaging in pedophilia with his current wife. I believe her name is Soon Yi. He was engaging in all types of depravity with her. And I believe what was the name of the female that he was with? What's the chick name who was in that film about having the demons removed from your body? Mia Farrow. That's who it was. Woody Allen was with Mia Farrow, who was in Rosemary's Baby, about how they used her to quote unquote have sex with Satan and bring forth the quote unquote Antichrist into the world. Very, very interesting, very good movie, directed by Roman Polanski. And for those of you who don't know, his former wife Sharon Tate was sacrificed by former Process Church initiate Charles Manson, but that's a whole other video for another day. So Mia Farrow already knew about Woody Allen. She outed him. Everybody knows that Woody Allen is a molester. And when you look at Oprah Winfrey's face, Oprah Winfrey's just going through the motions, man. Oprah Winfrey's done.
I hope so. I'll be honest, I don't know about anybody else, but I hope so. Good luck.
You know, I'm not one of these guys who runs around saying that every female in Hollywood is a tranny, but this person here, I mean, come on. This person here, like I said, looks like Paul Pierce with a wig. And this female here, Shonda Rhimes, you know how she came into prominence in Hollywood? You know who gave her break? Like so many other liberal black females in Hollywood, she got her break from a black man. That being Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington allowed her to become a prominent part of his production company back in the early 90s. And from there, she was able to make her way into Hollywood. But Denzel gave her start. He allowed her to rewrite a lot of scripts for his production company. I can't remember the name right now.
I'd like to believe the time's up for silence.
Yeah.
We can start there.
Well, how about the time being up for you women bullshitting about what you claim to have gone through and actually go through the proper channels as opposed to trying to attention monger? Because the woman has never really been silent. It's just that one could make the case that people have not believed her. And that often is based on the precedent that women are known for lying. Let's be for real. So once again, I hope that for every female that you helped that was actually the victim of sexual assault and sexual harassment, you're also going to acknowledge that it should be times up for the men who are in prison for rapes that they were accused of that they did not commit, for men who are paying out the backside for child support for a child that's not theirs. I hope that you understand that there's an equivocation there.
It should be noted that Allen has denied Dylan's allegations, and following 2 investigations, no charges have ever been filed against him.
Give me a break. Woody Allen is connected with a capital C. He is never going to go to prison or jail for doing something that everyone in Hollywood is doing. He's dealing with Kabbalah. He's far above that.
Still, the larger issues remain.
I think a big part of this too is not just changing the written rules, but the unwritten rules. And I think what we are experiencing right now is a tectonic shift underneath our feet. and where women and men are feeling like we can no longer not say the truth. And when the truth is said, there is maybe a ripple in our culture right now that is going to allow for there to be a change. I feel.
Well, when the truth is said, what happens is that people get offended and people get separated. So I understand her attempt at a metaphor with the tectonic plates. There is going to be a shift, but it's going to be a shift that's going to bring about a great separation. Because whenever the truth is spoken or brought to light or brought forth, you're going to have two camps, the people who accept it and the people who don't. So truth is a two-way street. The same way that many of these liberal females believe that it's time for them to bring forth their version of events, you're going to encourage men to rouse up conversely and bring forth the truth from their perspective. And hopefully these females will be prepared when it comes, because the man is like a male lion. It's difficult to rouse him up, but when he does get roused up, he's going to destroy everything that is around him. Many of these females don't really know what they're doing, as has already been shown and conveyed and displayed. But Oprah asked them point blank, who's the leader? What's the plan? They had no answers. So you have to be very prepared when you decide to go to war and you have no ammo.
I feel like there's like a constructive fury that has resulted in a resolute pursuit of equity.
In other words, that's a way of saying that there's going to be a witch hunt, a pursuit of equity. What does that even mean? I don't even think that she knows. She's just trying to put forth some words in a way that she feels like will make a cogent point.
Like there's like this, as you said, that tectonic shift, and then like something has galvanized that we're.
Look at Oprah. Oprah's like, bitch, please.
We're all like, this is not just my hurt. This is more than my hurt. This is not just my anger. This is our anger.
Is that how angry you were at Charlie Sheen when you thought he gave you the monster? Is that the anger and the hurt that you're talking about, allegedly?
And instead of it just being a feeling, it's becoming an action.
I've heard the confusion about the difference between, people are afraid to even say there's a difference between inappropriate behavior, inappropriate comments, and sexual assault, and sexual predators, and rape. There is a difference.
There is a difference, but there's a culture that one part of it supports the other. There's an understanding of consent and respect that I think has gotten very confused in our culture.
Yes, it starts with overly flirtatious females like you, who have made a spectacle of yourself over the years, going on talk shows, flirting with rappers, flirting with basketball players, throwing yourself at various men in the industry. Of course, so you're the recipient of the energy that you emit. You cannot get upset at how you're perceived when you're the one who is providing that perception. That's how it goes, Miss Ross. That is why you're 45 years old, and let's be for real, your options are limited at best. That is why you're on TV now looking for attention from Oprah. Oprah is like everybody's mommy in Hollywood. When they get in trouble, they want to run to mommy. Well, mommy doesn't have any answers.
That has set up a space that can make all of that happen.
In my business, in my law firm, several people have come to me and said, I just don't know what to say. I just don't know what to do. And I said, you know the difference between right and wrong. Is it a conversation that you would be comfortable going home at night and telling your wife or your mother that you had? If you are uncomfortable in telling them about this conversation, then
you shouldn't have it.
You shouldn't have it.
And beyond that, brothers, what she's basically saying is that there should be an end to all sexual conversation in the workplace. That's why I tell you, brothers, that. I tell you that the time for that sexual repartee, that back and forth with these random females, must come to an end. Right? This is why they're constantly trying to create this image of male harassment on the street, what they call street harassment. Stop talking to these women. You watch how quickly they start to wonder why they're not getting any more attention. The woman is like a child. If you go left, she wants to know how come you're not going right. If you go right, she wants to know how come you're not going left. That's how they are. Ignore them and watch them destroy themselves.
Do you think some men need some relearning?
Oh, yes. And
Now, did you hear that? You know how insulting that is for these group of females to claim that men, number one, need relearning, as if, number one, as if that's true. Number two, as if they're mentally capable of reteaching men, because that is what is implied. If men need relearning, that means that they believe that they're qualified to teach men how to be men and how to conduct themselves. Now, I wonder how they would react if men stated that they need to relearn how to dress properly, and they would not garner a lot of the attention that they're garnering, because it is natural that how you dress is going to determine the type of energy that you get. That's common sense. But what does the average liberal female say? Well, how come you can't control yourself? That is proof positive right there that they are dressing in a way to elicit a response and a reaction, as opposed to what they claim they want, which is to be left alone, allegedly. Very, very, very deceitful times that we're in.
And also the thing that's always surprising to me, I am a strong, outspoken, powerful woman. And
allegedly. If you were all those things, you wouldn't have to say them.
And there are places and ways and times that I am even afraid to speak up. There are environments that we all work in that support a culture of harassment or a culture of any of those things that it's
Inappropriateness.
Yes, of inappropriateness under the guise of humor.
In other words, not only in the workplace does the female not want to be the recipient of a certain type of conversation, she does not want to be in the presence of two men having a conversation that does not concern her, that she finds objectionable. You understand? This is the sentiment that they're going to put forth in the corporate American workplace. And what's going to happen is they're going to find themselves not being able to get jobs anymore, because the man is going to feel like he cannot express himself. And when men start feeling that way, there's going to be a trickle-down effect. But once again, these females are two-dimensional thinkers. They don't understand the importance of separation of the genders. You don't have the right to invade a male environment and stipulate to men how to express themselves. They don't get that. This is why you're supposed to be where you're at, and the man is where he's at. But because you want to invade the male workspace and the male energy is offensive to you, now you want to try to re-engineer him. Remember, when you're a guest in someone's home, you have to go by their rules and their laws. You don't have the right to go up in somebody else's house and tell them how to speak. Shows you how presumptuous many of these females are. But they're feeling themselves right now. That's okay.
Under the guise of all these things, or I'm just complimenting you. All of those kinds of things that it's like, yes, but you're, or why aren't you smiling, honey? Or, all of those kinds of things that play into an overall idea of what the role that I am supposed to be playing as a woman.
I don't believe that you know what your role as a woman is. That's very, very clear. That's why you're so confused. Underneath all that bluster, brothers, I guarantee you, once this segment was cut, she ran to the bathroom, popped a couple of antidepressants, and told the rest of them bitches, okay, where we going for wine? I promise you that. Because that is how these females sedate themselves. Because they're at their wits' end. But notice what she said. Oh, how come you're not smiling? What is that going back to again? They feel like they're getting harassed if men speak to them. Unless it's a man that they find attractive, and then they feel like they can say to that man whatever they want. As any man knows who gets hit on by women, when you reject a woman, it's all type of craziness. Oh, are you gay? You must hate your mother. all type of silly shit, because they can't handle rejection. But they're the ones that are on television now telling men that they need to be recalibrated, re-engineered, retrained on how to deal with females. And most of the females on this panel right here, ain't no man looking for them. Ain't no man checking for their ass. I mean, Shonda Rhimes, ain't nobody checking for you unless you're coming off the bench for the Celtics. Like, get the fuck out of here.
And if it's scary for me to speak up.
Yes. But the question, Tracy, is how is this measured? How do we make the punishment fit the crime? For somebody who's saying, I was just complimenting you, versus somebody who is actively a predator.
But maybe there isn't an answer for that yet.
Or maybe you just don't have any answers, which is something that is very, very obvious. You don't have answers, which is why you're not fit to be on any form of decision-making board.
And once someone has been accused of this bad behavior, this inappropriateness, is there, do you believe, a path to learning and then overcoming those mistakes and doing better? Is there? Where is forgiveness in this?
I think there's a lot of room for reconciliation. I think there's a time to approach people and tell the truth and have them listen thoughtfully and meaningfully and apologize sincerely.
So once somebody's been accused of sexual harassment and loses their job, should they ever work again?
I'm not here to make that decision.
So then why, once again, bitch, why are you on the Time's Up decision-making board for then? What the fuck is your role? Look at these silly broads, man. As soon as they ask the real question, I don't really know. I haven't thought that far. I just thought we were going to be here and talk and drink wine, and I don't know.
I'm not a lawyer. Just having a conversation for the world.
But this conversation, by the way, has caused a lot of arguments for me at dinner parties. There have been a lot of shouting across a lot of tables about this, because some people really feel like, no, that's it for them. And some people feel like they're not so sure. I mean, I was raised in a world in which I believe that there has to be a belief that people can grow, change, and learn, and know better. I mean, not if you've committed a crime. I feel like you need to go do your time for your crime. But I do believe people have to be able to grow, change, and learn from their mistakes at a certain point. There has to be room for reconciliation in a weird way. But a lot of people don't think that right now, and a lot of women have the right to not feel that right now.
That's good. So then that means that a lot of men have the right to not feel any form of remorse or feeling of reconciliation when they decide that they're going to be as vindictive as possible once they realize that a woman has lied about a child being theirs, or any other way in which the female has lied and gotten men incarcerated, whether it be for false claims of rape or things of that nature. See, once again, when you have the mindset of a lawmaker and a legislator, when you craft a law and a penalty for that law, your mindset is always going to be on how it can affect everyone in any circumstance. The female by nature is so self-absorbed that she only thinks about ramifications and how they are going to affect her. So they don't understand that when you have the mentality that you don't need to have any forgiveness for anything that has to do with what they esteem to be sexual harassment, which can range from a guy saying, hey, you're looking beautiful today, all the way to a man grabbing you and raping you. They're trying to act like there's no distinction and that there's no need for a distinction and that there's no need for a female to make a distinction at this point. Well, then you have to understand that the same thing works conversely. But their brains don't work on that level to grasp that. That's why they're not fit to create any type of or establish any type of standard.
And speaking of this moment, as a culture, we've gone from not listening, hearing, or believing women. And how are we going to skip over the whole part where women get to be heard and go straight to the redemption of the perpetrators?
Yeah.
Because that's what it's about. At the end of the day, when you're talking about an issue like this, you have to think about the potential either redemption or conviction of the quote-unquote alleged perpetrator. You can't sit around in a circle all day just getting attention for yourself and, woe is me, I was a victim, and shame, shame, shame on you. People who have the mindset of a legislator or any type of judiciary committee, their concern is going to be, okay, what's the punishment for this crime? What are the grades? What are the levels? If you don't comprehend that, then once again, you're someone else who's not fit to be on this board.
Can't we live in that space where it's okay for perpetrators to be a little bit uncomfortable with what the consequences will be?
Well, how could they be uncomfortable with what the consequences will be when you don't even know what the consequences should be?
Can you speak to how the speaking out of your own truth and telling your story, because I think I was in the room the very first time you shared your story, Reese, and how has the speaking out of it actually led to a greater sense of empowerment and control over it?
Well, I don't know if I've gotten to that place yet. As you can see, I'm very emotional about it.
Well, yeah, that's another reason why you should not be on any decision-making board, and there's nothing against this female at all. I understand that any type of sexual assault can be very traumatic, but that's why any type of penalty enforcement should go to a third party. Okay? And once again, the acting world, the entertainment industry is a very nefarious environment due to the fact that many of these females believe from a young age that they should be independent and autonomous. They reject any form of male authority over them, which was set up to act as a protector. They don't want their father or their man around in these different environments because they think that they can't be touched. And then when they get touched, they're embarrassed by it because they realize that the ideology of female independence is a facade. It's not real. It's imaginary. And that's really what crushes them, is that at any moment, a man could take what he wants from them. So now they're left with, wow, should I persist in this false ideology of female independence, or should I conform to what I've been taught is a dated model of relationships, which is that a man should be my protector? That's what's really killing them.
But I keep going back to, somebody sent me this Elie Wiesel quote that said, silence helps the tormentors, it doesn't help the tormented. And neutrality helps the oppressors, not the oppressed. And there's moments that you have to evaluate whether silence is going to be your only option. And certain times that was our only option, but now is not that time.
Well, silence was never your only option. You could have went to the police. It's just that you value your career more than you and your esteem in Hollywood more than you value your own self-esteem. But now that it's trendy for women to speak about these issues, now you can act courageous and you can come forth with your alleged stories. But if I'm not hearing any names, if I'm not hearing any dates, if I'm not hearing any specificity in regards to what actually occurred, I'm sorry, it's just hearsay.
You know, we have public voices, we have resources, but women who are workers in this country have nothing to gain in certain instances by coming forward, but we want to help. Like, it gives me strength to hopefully help other women.
This quickly became, as I noted.
But anyway, that's it on this this little feature here. As we can see, many of these females are still confused. They're still bemused, and they obviously need help. But once again, because they've thrown off the ideology of male authority, you know, there was a time that if a woman was raped, her male relatives would get the revenge. They would handle it. But because the modern day female has alienated herself so much against men, now most of these men, when they hear about stories like this, don't have any type of passionate response to it because their attitude is, you know, okay, well, I guess you got to deal with it then. And that's unfortunate. But anyway, peace.